Hello and welcome to the final programme in the current series of Entertainment Ireland. We've a fantastic show lined up for you tonight. Among my guests will be one of the great legends of the Irish folk scene, Johnny McEvoy, will be dropping by for a chat. We have the Fashion Designer of the Year, Rebecca Marsden, and of course Michael Fox will have some more new Irish talent to feature on the show. But my first guest is a renowned singer both in Irish and in English. She hails from the heart of the Connemara Gaeltacht. She is Nan Tom Tameen. Tá fáilte rós, Nan.
Thank you very much.
Now, all these awards you won, last year you won the TG Carter Award
this year,
for
Singer
of the Year.
2014, yeah.
And that was for Shannon singing, wasn't it?
Shannon singing and ballads, the English ballads as well.
And you've won other numerous awards as well.
I have won the All-Ireland 3 times in English and Irish. That was in the 70s, a long time ago. And I won Corny Riada twice in the women's competition 3 times.
Now I'm fascinated about your name, Nan Tom Tameen.
It's a Connemara thing. My dad was called Tom. My granddad was called Tameen. And
is there a lot of names like that around the Connemara Gaeltacht area?
Yeah, nearly everybody in Connemara would get called, you know, Joe Feather Tom or Sean Martin John or
the great
whatever.
Names
And
fantastic.
Rarely would anybody get called by their sort of, you know, their surname or.
And would you speak Irish all the time down there as well?
It's my first language.
First language.
Yeah.
Yeah, proud of it.
I'm very proud of it.
Very good. Now, you learned your traditional Irish music from the old gramophone records, and your mother as well. She was very influential, wasn't she, with your singing?
Both my mum and my dad, there was music on both sides. My mother had a beautiful voice, and so did my dad. And we had the old gramophone and the old 78s.
But Shannon's singing outside the Gaeltacht areas at that time, it wasn't very well known. What was Shannon singing?
No, it was. You'd rarely hear it. You wouldn't hear it outside of the Gaeltacht, and it was more of a thing that was done at what we used to call times, which when somebody was, or some people call it the American wake, somebody would be going away to America to immigrate, or somebody was getting married, and they used to have the weddings in the house at the time. And that's where you would hear Shannons. You know, somebody would sit on the stairs and just sing away, and that was it. You know?
And where do you think the revival started then, and it became popular? How do you think that happened?
Well, I suppose the Erchadas was always going, and that was a festival that happened. It still goes on once a year. And then, of course, as Shannons classes started to be taught in the schools, and as things got better, you know, it just went from there. And now, today, there's more young people doing Shannons. As you know, I teach it myself around the schools, and it's, you know, there's children as young as 4 and 5 coming and wanting to learn it. And of course, then more competitions came on, and that enticed the young ones. And,
but are you talking outside the Gaeltacht areas as well, are you?
Yeah, outside the Gaeltacht, yeah. Right. Outside the Gaeltacht.
Do you remember the first Shannon song you learned?
Yeah, I do actually. It was a song called The Roisin Dove, and I only had 3 verses of it. That's all I knew of it, and I won my first Erchadas with it.
Well, we're going to get a little sample of your Shannon sing as well. You will sing a nice Shannon song on scale for us.
I'm going to try a couple of verses, Henry. The voice is not great, as you can tell, because I'm just after getting over pneumonia, so you'll forgive me if it's a bit nasally. Yes. But I'll try a couple of verses called a song called Dó hí Cheoigach. Tó cé mé mo tó Godú hí Cheoigach madin a quartzeg ma vilis thorin Gais go jo ni chasu Gaida gabu abui Hari nyorno Skadas in a folvar I gal gan finne snach brades anor di nagi sinje mustorin etamshe Gais mailach dine chratu shafagu megamel Sngamach Nariakidgo ilasiano no galeren chor gonna fleish. That's all you're going to get.
That was absolutely gorgeous. How could somebody like you with a singing voice like that, then you went off to London and joined a country band then?
I did. I went off to London in 1978 and I had big dreams. I love country music. I love all kinds of music. I was going to go to Nashville and I was going to make it big in country music and get rich.
And were you going to give up your Irish singing then as well?
Oh
right?
yes, of course. But I get loads of money first.
So you decided to return to Ireland then, did you?
I returned in 94. Yeah, I spent 20 years over there. Then in 2007, I got this urge to go country again, and I love the ballads as well. And so I decided to record an album.
Yes.
And it was a mixture of a few country songs and a few ballads. And
then you did a follow-up album.
Then I did a follow-up in 2010. You see, the thing with Sean's albums is I love Sean's, and it'll always be
part of you.
It'll always be the closest to my heart. But there's no money in it, you know, because you only sell a few Sean's albums around the Gaeltacht areas. And when you're raising a family, you know, you have to get money where you can. So I recorded the second one in 2010, and that went very well. It went great.
Which brings us now to the new album, which is just out. Beautiful album. There's gorgeous songs on it as well.
Thank you very much.
Well, keep up the Shannon singing, and I'm sure many people are going to enjoy your new album, Whispering Wind. And we're going to finish with a track here from you. This is from a concert you did in America, and a great version in Boston. Yeah, great Irish city. And a great version of Kevin Barry. So once again, Anne, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Henry.
That's all. You're more than welcome. Well, to take us to the break, here's the wonderful voice of Nan Tom Tameen and a great version of Kevin Barry, which was recorded in concert in Boston. We'll see you after the break.
Turning farmer, I will kill you. Kevin Barry answered no. Another martyr for old Ireland, another martyr for the crown. Whose brutal laws may kill the Irish, but can keep their spirits down. Lads like I are no cowards. from the cloud they will not fly. Lads like Barry will free Ireland. For her sake they live and die.
Welcome back, folks. Well, it's time to take a look at some more emerging new Irish talent with our regular entertainment correspondent, Michael Fox. Once again, welcome.
Hi Henry, good to be back.
Yes. Yeah, you have three more exciting new acts
I
for
have
us.
indeed, yes. Yep.
Okay, we're going to County Tyrone first.
To Strabane in County Tyrone. Thomas Gillespie, singer from Strabane. In the late 90s, he appeared on a TV programme called Stars in Your Eyes, impersonating Garth Brooks.
Wow.
This led to an opportunity to sing in Nashville in the USA. And 5 years ago, he came second on the popular Irish TV programme Glochéra. He's currently in a two-piece band playing local music venues around Tyrone. This year he released his debut album, This Is the Life.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to take the title track
We
from
are,
that
yes.
now. Okay, here he is, Thomas Gillespie, and This Is the Life.
Oh, the wind whistles down the cold dark street tonight, and the people, they were dancing to the music by, and the boys chase the girls with the curls in their hair, while the shouting men to youth sitting way over there, and the songs are getting louder, each one better than before. And you're singing the song, singing this is the life, and you wake up in the morning and your head is towards the side. Where you gonna go, where you gonna go, where you gonna sleep tonight? And you're singing the song, singing this is the life, and you wake up in the morning and your head is towards the side. Where you gonna go, where you gonna go, where you gonna sleep tonight? Oh, where you gonna sleep tonight? So you're heading down your road and you text for 4, and you're waiting outside Jimmy's front door, but nobody's in and nobody's home till 4. So you're sitting there with nothing to do, talking about Robert Ragger and his motley crew, and where you gonna go, where you gonna sleep tonight? And you're singing the song, singing this is the life, and you wake up in the morning and your head is towards the sides. Where you gonna go, where you gonna go, where you gonna sleep tonight? And you're singing the song, singing this is the life, and you wake up in the morning and your head is towards the side. Where you gonna go, where you gonna go, where you gonna sleep tonight? Oh, where you gonna sleep tonight? Singing the song, singing this is the life, and you wake up in the morning and your head is towards the sides. Where you gonna go, where you gonna go, where you gonna sleep tonight? And you're singing the song, singing this is the life, and you wake up in the morning and your head is towards the sides. Where you gonna go, where you gonna go, where you gonna sleep tonight?
Well, we hope you enjoyed Thomas Gillespie there, and This Is the Life. Now, where we go off to next, Michael?
I'm going to introduce to you Submotion. They're a youthful, energetic, female-fronted rock band from Dublin, writing and performing their own material. They were formed about 4 years ago. They issued their debut EP in April this year, and that was entitled Happy Little Bruises. They've played many prestigious venues right across Dublin, and they're currently working on various music projects, and they're busy writing new songs. And we're going to have a listen to their latest single, which is entitled Dust to Dust.
Okay, let's hear Submotion and Dust to Dust.
Maybe you were right. You pointed and stared me in the eye, uncomfortably smitten with the melancholic twinkle in your smile. What's your point of view? It's easier to judge, and I'm not you. I know you feel alone, and I will not oppose, 'cause you've been severed into two.
Well, that was a great song there from Submotion and Dust to Dust. Finally, Michael, we're going to the Garden of Ireland.
We are County Wicklow.
Beautiful county.
And I'm going to tell you about Perfect Friction. They're a band of young musicians who formed in early 2012. They've been playing traditional music sessions in Wicklow town. The musicians themselves come from Wicklow, Dublin and Wexford, and in fact include 4 All-Ireland champions. Their music ranges from high-energy traditional sets with a broad range of instruments to pop and rock, arranged with a trad theme. And
sounds a bit like the Corrs, doesn't it?
In fact, I would equate them to the Corrs in the musical style, but they've got a great foot-tapping sound. They're currently gigging in the US, and in February they're heading over to Germany for a month's tour, and after that they'll be coming back to Ireland. They have a debut EP which is going to be released in April next year, and this will include their first single, which is entitled Irish Love. Now, the song itself reflects on the social impact of emigration, the pain of lost love, and the pride of being Irish.
Right. You can't get better than that.
No, you can't.
Yeah. Now, before we play it, Michael, just to say this is our final show.
It is, yeah.
And over the past number of weeks, we've had some great talents, up to about 30 acts.
We've had 30 up-and-coming acts, which we've introduced on the programme. Some great range of music from all of them, and bands and artists to look out for in the future, I think, Henry.
Yeah, and good reaction to them as well.
Great reaction indeed, yeah.
Very good.
Very good, yeah.
All right, so we'll say au revoir for now, Michael. So we'll see what happens in the next. Slán is right. And thanks for taking time out and joining us on the show every week. It was great to have you. Well, here is Perfect Friction and an Irish Love. Now, don't forget, after the break, I'll be joined by Irish Fashion Designer of the Year.
I met you down at the local, you were as cheeky as can be. You flashed a smile and gave a wink, I knew you were for me. Took me out the back of Jimmy's, my God, you look so good. And you gave me a kiss and you whispered this, would I be your Irish love? I want you to come home, baby, come back home. I want you to come home, you're my Irish love. I want you to come home, baby, come back home. I want you to come home, you're my Irish love. Spend Christmas at the fireplace, spend parties at the bar. You told me things that nobody knew from deep down in your heart. And then you went and left me to Australia, gone for good. Away you flew my heart into, and I lost my Irish love. I want you to come home, baby, come back home. I want you to come home, you're my Irish love. I want you to come home, baby, come back home. I want you to come home, you're my Irish love. Years late in March the 17th, I won't forget that day. People dancing on the tables, drinking, laughing, fiddles play. Got a soul tap on my shoulder, turn around and there he stood. Not just the day, he was back to stay, and I found my Irish love. I want you to come home, baby, come back home. I want you to come home, you're my Irish love. I want you to come home, baby, come back home. I want you to come home, you're my Irish love.
Welcome back, folks. Well, it's fashion time, and I'm joined by the Irish Fashion Designer of the Year for 2014, the lovely Rebecca Marsden. Rebecca, you're very welcome indeed.
Thank you for having me, Henry.
And congratulations on your award. How important was that award for you now?
I think it's very important really to be noticed as the Designer of the Year, certainly, and an added bonus to be awarded the Innovation Award for 2014 as well, which was sort of encompassing all areas of design in terms of fashion, millinery, accessories.
Well, it's not your first award either. Earlier on this year, you won an award in Milan as well, didn't you?
That's correct, yeah. It was I was chosen for my accessories, and I was the only Irish representative in Milan. So it was lovely. It was a trade fair that went on for 4 days, and it was a brilliant opportunity for me to sort of to get a foothold in
it's kind of the home of fashion as well, isn't
it?
It
is.
Now, I'm sure many people watching now will be talking about the wonderful outfit. This is your own creation as well, isn't it?
Yeah, this is one of my autumn-winter pieces.
Yes, yeah. And the headpiece?
The headpiece is also mine, yeah.
Beautiful. I'd say you get a lot of response for that, do you?
Yeah, they're rather eye-catching statement pieces.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, just to give people an idea of how you became to win this fabulous award, we're just going to take a look at some of your fashions here. We have them on the video here. This is the collection now that you won the award for, isn't it?
Yes, this is the autumn-winter collection.
Yes.
So this was a video we filmed featuring various looks from the collection. It was filmed with Ishka Studios, and we decided to locate out at Howth for the filming, and it was a beautiful setting. It was really interesting.
And the outfits themselves, Rebecca, can you just describe the outfits?
Yeah, they range from some of the knitted pieces, which one of which I'm wearing now. They
this white piece now.
This white piece is it's a printed jersey, which really sort of flows in a lovely way. But the printing techniques we used were it's heat activated, in that when it's actually screen printed, the print itself is then put under heat treatment, and it
and the gold collection here, this gold piece with the lovely top on it. I was looking at this earlier on.
The gold's been a very popular piece, the gold skirt. I think a fantastic look for Christmas and everything like that.
Yes.
If somebody wants something that's got a little bit of pop and just really brings something vibrant and fun.
Now, this collection was in Brown Thomas as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it has been as part of their Create project, which runs every year for the last 4 years, and it's a showcasing and retailing opportunity that Brown Thomas offered to emerging fashion designers and established fashion designers as well.
And what has been the reaction from the collection in Brown Thomas?
Well, it's been great, really. I suppose I started off with them in 2012. That was my graduate collection that went straight in. So I think my hard work paid off in that they invited me back to feature in 2013 and once again in 2014. I would be one of the only designers to have featured sort of 3 years consecutively, so it's been great.
Fantastic. And how did you get involved in fashion now, Rebecca?
It's something I suppose I've been interested in from a very early age. I always loved the Danny Kaye movies and the Goldwyn Girls. I was a big fan of the Goldwyn Girls, so just sort of costume and every sort of element of that as a...
And I think your mother inspired you a fair bit as well, didn't she?
Yeah, well, my mother's an artist and my sister's very creative as well. I come from quite a creative family in general. My mum actually went back to college and did her fine art degree. She is more the fine art side of things, whereas I tend towards the design. But
and when did you get your first break then, Rebecca?
It would have certainly been, I think, my graduate collection. That was noticed by Eddie Shanahan, who's the head of the Council of Irish Fashion Designers, and he invited me to be involved in the International Design Collective, which was an international fashion show, kind of as the feature finale of the Volvo Ocean Race in 2012. So that was a brilliant opportunity and just a great chance to meet international designers from Abu Dhabi, from New Zealand, from South Africa. It was great for me. I was the newbie. And then from there I was invited by Brown Thomas to feature and create. So it was just sort of...
Is there much international response to your collection?
To an extent. I think that's my next move now. I really want to start growing internationally and taking the collections to international trade fairs, similar to the one I was in Milan earlier this year. That would be the next step for me, moving into Paris, into the UK.
And is it hard, Rebecca, to break into that circuit, is it, do you think?
I think it's always going to be difficult if you're sort of a new emerging name, but what they like to see international trade fairs certainly is sort of consistency. So maybe they won't pay any attention for the first couple of years, but if you're still there, year 3, still persistent, then they're going to they're going to, take notice of you.
Well, you work out of Sligo. Your studio's in Sligo.
My studio is based in Sligo now. I was initially in Dublin. After I graduated from Limerick, I moved to Dublin. But last December, I moved back to Sligo. I've got a nice studio there, and it's easy to access.
So what's the fashion colours now coming up to the Christmas?
Oh, well, for me, I don't know. I don't go with anything too garish. There's always sort of quite muted tones within my collections, but I always like to bring a little bit of warmth in with metallics. So this hairband, for example, there's nice sort of gold tones coming through, and the skirt, as I mentioned before, a nice sort of pop, but that would be as loud as I go.
And where people wanted to purchase your outfit, I mean, how do they go about it? Somebody knows that beautiful headpiece now with what I'd love to buy. That looks gorgeous. I mean, where do they get it?
Well, I'm now currently stocked with Marion Cuddy, who has an Irish Design Emporium in the Paris Court Centre in Dublin, and then online, really, just to contact me through my website.
Yes, Rebecca Marsden. Now you're also teaching fashion as well in the college in Sligo, aren't you?
In Sligo,
part-time, yes.
Yeah, part-time with St Angela's. They've actually got a new fashion textiles BA course there, and it's lovely to be back in that sort of college environment. I certainly loved it myself when I was a student, so it's nice to be.
So where do you go from here now, Rebecca? Where's the next step?
The next step, I think, is really just looking at expanding outside of Ireland. I'd like to maintain my base here in the studio here, really. I think that's important, and we see so much talent, leaving the country, and I think there are opportunities here to be had, so I'd really like to stay and look at expanding, but look at the various avenues I can go down. I like to think of myself, and I think most emerging designers like to think of themselves as trend drivers as opposed to sort of directed by trends being dictated to us. It's nice to be able to stand out in your own field and just, sort of project your own aesthetic.
Yeah, and what's your own particular favourite piece of your own collection now?
Oh gosh. I actually love, I think, the green tucked dress, which would be,
beautiful piece. Yes.
Thank you.
Very
elegant. There's a lot of texture and form to it. It's not necessarily something everyone could wear, but for me, I love something that's tactile and that I'm curious about and want to touch and feel. So, yeah.
Well, look, it's a continued success with the fashion designing, and no doubt we'll be reading and hearing a lot more about you in the coming months and indeed years, because you can only go strength to strength with the beautiful fashions indeed. And thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much, Henry.
Right, folks, well, we hope you enjoyed our look at the latest Irish fashions for 2014. Well, my final guest on the final programme in the current series, I'm delighted to say, is a man that I've admired for many, many years. Not only is he one of the great legends of the Irish folk scene, but he's a wonderful songwriter as well. And I'm delighted to say he's taken time out from his busy schedule. He's currently on tour across the country in concert, the one and only Johnny McEvoy. Johnny, it's lovely to have you on the program.
Thank you, Henry. It's great to be here.
And I've been a great admirer, as I said, of your work for many, many years. The songs over the years have been just fantastic.
I'm not too sure where the legend comes from, but I'll accept
well, after 50 years, you're 50 years in the
50
business.
years this year, I suppose so. But I'm not dead.
Now, you're just back from Newfoundland.
Yeah.
What's it like playing over there?
It's fantastic, really. I've been going out there for the last 14 years, maybe even longer. I do it every second year, and it's a big island, and there's only 400,000 people on it, and the vast majority of them are of Irish descent. What happened was the fishermen from the Waterford and Wexford area used to travel across the sea to Newfoundland for the fishing season. This was going back now 1700s, back long before the famine days. So eventually they stayed there, brought their families out and settled. And there's an area going from St. John's up to Gander and across to Clarnville, and it's called the Irish Loop. and they're all Irish descent.
Now, you come back, and Johnny, after 10 years, you finally brought out a new album,
Yeah.
The Basement Sessions. And I
Basement
know it's very
Sessions.
close to your heart as well. You're very happy with the album.
I am. I was toying around with the idea of a new album and re-recording some of the older ones, because what I've had happening in the last 10 years, I've had compilations coming out, mostly of the older albums that I recorded down through the years. So I wanted something fresh, something new, and I wanted to do it in the way that I actually sing them on stage. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep them simple. I didn't want any fancy arrangements, key changes, all that sort of thing. I just wanted to sing it straight. The way I started singing all the
And of course, all the favourites are on it as well.
But not them all. No, there's a few. Long Before Your Time is on it,
yeah.
and I've got 3 or 4 new ones as well.
Yeah.
Michael is on it as well.
Yeah. There's one particular song I know is very close to your heart because it's called The Planter's Daughter.
Yeah, that I have spent many years trying to write a love song for my wife, and eventually 4 years ago I came up with The Planter's Daughter, mainly because she was very big into ancestry, and she would trace her family back. In fact, she could trace her family back to Strongbow. So I wanted to write around that, and about the time I first met her in Grafton Street, and up to the present day, how I feel about her.
She was kind of your rock, wasn't she? Because she helped you a lot during the years when you were having
Yeah, well,
difficulties as
my whole family did. They all stood by me during the depressions.
The dark days, yeah.
The dark days, well, they're not gone away, but they're not as bad as they used to be. And I got great family support, great support from her as well, because I was very difficult at that time and very difficult to live with. I'm not finding it easy at the moment to write, but I know that'll come back in time.
Well, look, we'll take the song from the album. The Basement Sessions is the new album just out from release, and we'll talk about the concert tour as well,
Yeah,
to
okay.
coincide with it as well. And this particular song is very significant to Johnny and his family, of course, because it was dedicated to his late wife, Odette, and it's called The Planter's Daughter. And we'll see you after the break.
March winds were blowing when we met. A moment in time I won't forget. Raindrops were falling at your feet, reflecting your beauty on the street. Grafton Street was empty of all charm. You reached out and took me by the arm. I've never felt as good as I felt then, and I knew I'd never be the same again. Down where the old churchyard lies, under the grey Midland skies, tumbled down and broken, who'd say it's not right? Our ancestors might, but I'll always love the planter's daughter. Strongbow's blood ran in your veins. Of myself I couldn't say the same, but somehow it seemed to be okay, and it didn't really matter anyway. Were I to live 1,000 years, hear the angels whisper in my ears, and sit and watch the sunlight fade away, I never will forget that one spring day. Down where the old churchyard lies, under the grey Midland skies, tumbled down and broken, who'd say it's not right? Our ancestors might, but I'll always love the planter's daughter.
Welcome back, folks. Well, we hope you enjoyed that beautiful song from Johnny's latest album, The Basement Sessions, and it's called The Planter's Daughter. As I said, there's other lovely songs on the album as well. Johnny, going back over the years, I said 50 years in the business now. It's a great achievement and a great milestone. The 60s, I don't think people realise actually that you actually played support for the Rolling Stones in Dublin and in Belfast during the 60s.
Listen, enough people know about it already. Yeah, that was 1965 actually. I wasn't long going at the time. I was asked by a promoter of the show, would we go on and just do an opening couple of numbers on the Rolling Stones, and I was a Rolling Stones fan, and still am actually. And so this was great. This was fantastic. We had a great experience. So we went into the Adelphi Cinema. We were doing the opening slot, but there were other people on as well, and we opened the show. And
was it difficult with the screaming and?
Oh, listen, we didn't hear a word. It was like Nuremberg Rally. It was absolutely terrifying. And make it even worse, the MC got cold feet. And he wouldn't go on in the first show. He wouldn't introduce anybody in the first show. So they asked me, would I do it? So in my innocence, I said, sure, I'll do it. So I actually introduced the Rolling Stones on stage as well.
Great claim to fame.
I mean, the wall of sound was unbelievable because I couldn't hear my Mick beside me. They couldn't hear the Rolling Stones, and they made a lot of noise. And of course, they stormed the stage, and the curtain came down. And I'd say the Rolling Stones were on stage for about 20 minutes between the four shows because they just wrecked the place.
Well, then along came Murchie Durkin, the big number one hit. I think you knocked the Beach Boys off the number one in the charts for that
I
song,
did,
didn't
actually.
you?
Yeah, I knocked the Beach Boys. Good, you remember that. I during that summer, I got what I thought was probably my really big break, and that was a spot on the Gales of Laughter show in the Gaiety. And I was approached by John Woods of Pie Ireland at the time, and he said, well, why don't you go into the studio, put down a couple of songs, and we'll see how it goes. So I was at home going through every song. I sang Murchie Durkin. My mother came in and said, that's the one. So I listened to her, and I went in the next day, and I recorded Murchie Durkin and Those Brown Eyes, and the whole thing took about half an hour.
Wow. And
I walked out, forgot all about it. I said, no, nothing will happen. So about 3 weeks later, John Woods called me in and he said, there's the record, and you have a number one there. He said.
What was that feeling like?
I still didn't believe it. I didn't believe it until, I enjoyed the singing. I loved going around the clubs, and it was easy going. I was young. I was only 21, and all this was happening to me in a gentle, quiet sort of way. No pressure. And Murchie Durkin came out, and I went in at number 6, went to number 3, knocked the Beach Boys, and went into number 1. And that night I was playing out in Clontarf Castle to about 30 people, and by the weekend I was playing to 2,000. It happened that fast.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the hits came along during the 60s there. You had the Boston Burglar.
Had the Boston Burglar.
You had Nora. And all those.
Yeah.
But I think what surprised people, a lot of people were under the impression that they were your songs, you wrote those songs, but that wasn't the case at all, Johnny.
There was nobody writing songs on them. There were so many songs going around.
But you're so associated with those songs. People just took it for granted they were your songs.
Associate me with the song, yeah. No, I didn't write them. I can't claim that. But there was so many songs that there was very few people writing anything, and it wasn't until 1975. 75.
And in fact, the first song that you wrote was long before your time. You wrote that in a pub in Newcastle in County Mayo, or you started it there.
I didn't actually write it in the pub, but I wrote it in the field,
outside
at the back of the pub. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we were playing in Kennedy's in Newcastle, which was a great place to play all during those years. And I was outside, the boys were setting up the gear, and I was outside, feeling rather melancholy, and I was sitting on a stone, and this thing kept going around in my mind, long before your time. Don't know where it came from, just the phrase, long before your time. And it started to grow and grow and grow. And I wrote a few lines down, and of course I went in to sing that night, and I couldn't get my mind off the song. I don't know how I got through the night. Going home in the van, I wrote most of it that night, and I was recording an album. I was finishing an album about 2 weeks later, and I decided I'd record it. So I put down, the band recorded the backing tracks first, and I sang along with it. I didn't even have the song finished at the time, so I went outside in the hall, sat on the stairs and wrote the rest of the song and came in, and that was that. And again, I was more surprised than anybody else because it went number one too. Yeah.
Now later on, then of course, then you went into, you joined the kind of the rest of the show bands, then, and you went into the country scene, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, what happened then was, you see, when I was going around on my own after Murphy, Durkin and Brown Eyes, the only places I could work were in ballrooms. So you'd have a dance where you'd have a band on, they'd be playing for the dancing, and then halfway through the night they'd break. And I'd go on for 45 minutes as the guest star for the night. Now, as by the time we came to 1970, that sort of started to drop off. People didn't like the dances being interrupted anymore. They wanted to continue dancing through the night. They just wanted a band on to play the whole night, and they didn't like anybody interfering with the dancing. So the dances started to drop away. And so I said, well, look, what do I do? It was suggested to me by my manager at the time, look, I think it's come around to the time where if you can't lick him, join him. And that was form a band. So, and what I didn't like doing was doing songs, what I found difficult was doing songs for people to dance to rather than to listen to. I, coming from the folk and the ballads scene, where people came in to listen to a song and you sang your song, explained what it was about maybe, told a story, so people had to listen to it. But in a dance, no, they weren't listening, they were listening to the beat and the band, and
they were interested in
just
dancing.
in dancing.
Well, that went for full circle for you then, Johnny, and you went back to the folk scene again. Tell me about Michael Collins. Were you a fan of Michael Collins?
Oh yeah, I'm a great admirer of Michael Collins. As far as I can remember, for as long as I can remember, I think even in school, because in school there was no mention of Michael Collins. When I was in national school, the history ended in 1916 as far as my school days were concerned. But I got to know about him and to find out a lot about him in my teen years with a guy who used to stay with us in Clonskee, and young chap, he was about 2 years older than me, and he was from Tipperary. So through him I got to know about Michael Collins and Dev and all that sort of thing, and all that time. And I just became fascinated by him.
And you wrote the song then?
I didn't write the song until, I think it was about 1990 or around that time. It's one of my favourites still. It's not a song you can really do every night or every place because it is a very dark song. But I would still be a great admirer of him. I think I would say he was probably our greatest patriot ever.
Yeah, and probably the greatest leader we never had.
We never had, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, we'll feature Michael Collins here. This is Johnny McEvoy and that beautiful song, Michael Collins.
On a far off August day, cold young men in ambush lay on a roadside by a hill where flowers grow. So much hate for ones so young, who was right and who was wrong. Though 1,000 years may pass, we'll never know. Candles dripping blood they place beside your shoulders, rosary beads like teardrops on your fingers. Friends and comrades standing by, in their grief they wonder why, Michael, in their hour of need, you had to go. And when evening twilight came, gently fell the autumn rain. Oh, but you lay still and silent on the ground, as we hung our heads in prayer, and our sorrow and despair, we wondered, was it friend or foe who shot you down?
Well, there you have it, folks. A much requested song at Johnny McEvoy's concerts, Michael Collins. Johnny, just a couple of things before we wrap it up. You're back touring again, which is fantastic. I'm sure your many fans are looking forward to seeing you on the road again.
Well, I have done a few tours in the last few years. What I'm doing at the moment is, and on purpose really, is I'm doing a tour in the spring, I'm doing a tour in the autumn. And whatever happens between the summer, maybe festivals in England or in America, and like with Newfoundland as well. So I'm busy enough. I don't really want to do much more than that.
Right,
The travelling is just a bit hard now.
Yeah. And what can people expect from your shows now, these particular shows? I know throughout the month of November now you're playing all over the country.
Yeah.
And then you're back again in the spring.
Well, what I'll be doing all the tracks from the new album. And I do about 30 songs in the show. It's a 2-hour show, so I do about 30. And I'll be covering the old ones and a couple of new ones as well that might not be on the album, but ones coming up for the next album. I'm going through, finish up the end of November, then I've got a break through Christmas, and then I start another tour in February. That'll be another about 3 weeks tour then.
Just if I can ask you, of all the songs, do you have one particular favourite, Johnny, of them all? Of your own songs that you've written?
I think at the moment Planter's Daughter is a new one. I think Michael would be my top one. Going to California is another that I quite like to perform it. It's a song that
that's where we're going to go out with that song. I'm going to ask you finally about the song going to California. A lot of people think there's something Irish about that song, but it's not.
It's not really. No, it's written. I wrote it as a country folk type of song, as a country song base. It came out as a country song really, because of the backing, the way it was done. It's about a woman in New York who is tired of the fact that her husband goes out every night and leaves her alone. And he goes to the bars and he meets his old army buddies, and she's tired of this. And then one night she just gets sense and packs up and heads off to California. And he comes back and she's gone. Then he realizes how important she was to him in his life. And so he's on his own. He's the one on his own.
It's too late.
All he's got is his whiskey and the television.
It's a beautiful song. Well, listen, we're going to go out with that, Johnny.
Okay.
And Garmilma, thanks a million for joining us on the programme. I've been a great admirer of your work for many, many years, and your songs, just love them, as many of our viewers as well this evening. And continued success, and I'm sure your fans will be out in droves to see you on the concert tour across the country.
Thanks
Lovely
very
to
much,
have you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, just before we play Johnny McEvoy to take us out and going to California, can I just thank you all for joining me every Saturday night here for the series. We trust you enjoy the show, and indeed a special thanks to all our guests. We will be back with a new series in the new year, and don't forget we have a Christmas special coming up. Details on that particular show coming up on your screen in the next couple of minutes. But first, here we are once again, Johnny McEvoy and a beautiful song, Going to California. So from all of us here on the show, Slán go fóill.
Then one night he came home sober, with a longing just to hold her, when he found the note she'd written waiting by the telephone. And she said, I'll always love you, and I never will forget you, but I just can't take this lonely feeling anymore. She said, I'm going to California to taste the sunshine and the wine, sit beside the rolling ocean and slowly pass the time, reading books and old love stories, and forget about my worries. And maybe, who knows, maybe we'll meet again sometime. Now the nights are cold and lonely as he sits and watches TV, drinking beer and chasing whiskey, wondering where it all went wrong. And his eyes are tired and burning from the dreams that keep